international standards that are developed through a very rigorous consensus process. We have experts from all over the world that are involved in developing the standards, but not only experts, also regulators and policymakers, consumers, and other relevant stakeholders. So we all know that standard can mean different things for different people, dependent on geography, age, and industry. But in an essence, the standard is an agreed way of doing something. So now we do have standards, but when standards are applied, companies, businesses could claim compliance if the standard is somehow referenced or included in regulation, or conformity if it's about voluntary compliance. So now then it's the role of conformity assessment, and the conformity assessment is basically the process to demonstrate that the requirements are met. And those requirements can be in a standard, can be in a specification, can be in a regulation. So as Charles was saying earlier, conformity is a demonstration of the fulfillment of specified requirements. So I think now every one of you, if you remember what Charles said and what I was trying to summarize here, I think everyone now has a good understanding what standards are and what conformity assessment is and how they interplay together with regulatory frameworks or voluntary schemes that might exist out there. So now, what is CASCO? Just a little bit of, let's say, elements related to CASCO. Is the committee in ISO that is responsible for conformity assessment. We are supporting the confidence of users in the standards that are applied for conformity assessment, and we do play a dual role. So on one hand, in CASCO, we develop standards. We develop so-called CASCO toolbox. These are the 17,000 series of standards that are in a way organizing the conformity assessment system at the international level, because there are those high-level standards that provide requirements for conformity assessment activities, for conformity assessment bodies, for accreditation bodies. So on the other hand, we have a policy role. We develop ISO policy when it comes to conformity assessment aspects. And specifically, we work very closely with the ISO technical committees that develop standards, which include elements of conformity assessment, to ensure that those standards are developed in such a way that they can be effectively used later for conformity assessment. So I would say that these two roles are very much linked together, and the fact that we have ISO standards that can be applied in a rigorous way for conformity assessment is part of the work that CASCO is doing to support technical committees in developing standards. So what you have here is a representation in a graphical form of the CASCO toolbox. So the CASCO toolbox, we have currently 37 standards. They are all ISO IEC standards. This means that they have been developed in collaboration with IEC. There are standards that apply to accreditation bodies, like, for instance, ISO IEC 17011, and I think Yves will go much more into details as far as accreditation is concerned. There are standards that are applied in order to do peer evaluations, like ISO IEC 17040. And then there are a series of standards that are applied to conformity assessment bodies, like 17021-1, 17065, 17024, 1720, 1729, 1725. So these standards talk about specific conformity assessment activities. And they ensure that conformity assessment bodies, be them certification bodies or laboratories, testing calibration laboratories, that they all work in such a way that we can all have confidence in their competence. So the 17,000 series of standards that I just mentioned, applicable to conformity assessment bodies, give requirements that later on ensures that the conformity activities that are performed by the conformity assessment bodies implementing these standards are done in a competent way and following agreed upon processes. So the implementation of these standards at the level of the conformity assessment body gives confidence to customers that the conformity activity have been performed in a competent manner. Of course, accreditation plays a big role because accreditation is a third-party activity that, again, it's a sort of proxy for competence, demonstrating the competence of the conformity assessment bodies. And I'm sure Yves will talk more about this aspect related to accreditation. So, I think this is in, let's say, a very short...
we have a few minutes left, 2 minutes left.
This is a very short overview of what is the Casco toolbox that many of you probably are already using or applying. So why it's important that these standards are developed in Casco? Is because we need to ensure impartiality, that they are written in an impartial way. They are written with all stakeholders being at the table. And in ISO, we have a very important principle, which is the neutrality principle. Therefore, we do not prescribe any form of conformity assessment. So it can be first party, second party, third party conformity assessment. They are equally valuable. And basically, it's the market or the regulator or the customers that decide what type of conformity assessment needs to be performed. And this is the important role that Casco plays within ISO in ensuring that the ISO standards are written in a such way that all three forms of conformity assessment could be performed, and they are equally valuable. Again, it depends on the market, regulators, or the level of risk of the product. What type of conformity assessment activities is chosen. So we are talking about trade, and we are talking about trade facilitation, and I would emphasize that the Casco toolbox, the series of Casco standards, together with the ISO standard, provide for trust and confidence. And I believe that the consistent use of a Casco toolbox to perform conformity assessment activity plays an invaluable role in ensuring exactly the trust and the confidence of market. But not only that, ensuring harmonization, ensuring that there is a common set of requirements that everyone applies. And this helps later on in the mutual recognition of conformity assessment results, which I think is one of the important tools in facilitating trade. So we believe that using the Casco toolbox, using international standard, facilitates trade, reduce costs of trade and the cost of doing business. Of course, if we think about the African Trade Agreement, conformity assessment and international standards play a great role in trade facilitation. So for more information, you have here our dedicated webpage where you can find quite a number of documents talking about conformity assessment, talking about application of conformity assessment in the context of a regulatory framework. We recently revised the Building Trust brochures, which gives you quite an in-depth overview of the conformity assessment, how is applied, what are different activities, what is the role that ISO Casco plays, what is the role that IEC plays, and how all these elements play together in order to facilitate trade. So I will stop here, and of course, happy to continue the conversation with the other panelists and the moderator and all of you. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Madam Christina. I have seen our moderator is back. Mr. Steven, can you hear me? Okay. As now we are running out of time, I think once he's fully connected, he will now take over. But before that, I would like to ask also a question on okay, there are two questions, but I will try to summarize all of them. Now, one is on something that was actually presented by Charles, but it is something that you normally do. You have experience on it on the attestations, on the three levels of or types of attestations, which is the first, second, and third party attestations and methods. Now, we would like to know what is the level of risks and benefits of the three, and also just simply in responding. And the second is now the best practice for conformity assessment. Which one would you like to recommend in just few words, and simply for people who doesn't master conformity assessment? Yeah. Thank you.
Yes. So as I was saying earlier, the ISO Casco standards and the ISO standards are written in such a way that conformity can be assessed either by a self-declaration of the manufacturer, for instance, that produced the product, saying that yes, I applied these standards and I meet the requirements of this set of standards. This is first-party conformity assessment. Can be assessed by a buyer. Second-party conformity assessment. So again, someone buying the product could verify that indeed the company met the requirements of the standards that they set they were applying to the product, or by a third-party conformity assessment body like certification body, validation verification body, laboratory, testing or calibration laboratory, depending on the conformity assessment activity. So all three types of forms of conformity assessment are all valuable and equally valid. And the choice of which of one belongs to the market and belongs to the regulator if we talk about a regulated sector. And also what is very important here is the risk of the product. So in many situations, the regulator would require a specific form of conformity assessment based on the risk of the product, based on the results of market surveillance, based on the inherent risk of the product. So in terms from ISO Casco, we are not recommending any of these three forms of conformity assessment because, again, they are equally valuable, and it is depending on the product, depending on the history with that product, depending on a specific situation in the market. One or the other of the forms of conformity assessment may be best suited. So now in terms of good practices, you're asking me about good practices. Implementing the standard, the ISO Casco standards would give insurance that the conformity assessment activity is performed according to established requirements. So I would, of course, argue that a certification body or a laboratory or a validation verification body that implements the appropriate 17,000 standard would be a way to ensure good practices, that activities are done in an established way, they are always reliable, that the results are repeatable, and so on and so forth. So on top of that, of course, we have the third-party conformity assessment, you have the certificates, either accreditation certificate or other type of certificates that would give confidence that requirements have been met. But again, it is really a market-driven element, what type of conformity assessment is applied. And it depends on the product, it depends on the specific situation. So with that, I think
Yes.
I addressed the question, and of course, happy to answer any other question you may have.
Thank you. Thank you very much for the response and also for the presentation. Our moderator is back. Can you now unmute? Because it was a bit challenging for him to unmute himself. I think we are having 30 minutes left.
Oh, okay. Thank you very much. Nadine, thank you for being a brother skipper. Yes, we're running out of time, and my sincere apologies for being cut out. I came back and I was unable to unmute. Allow me to quickly get to our third presenter. Our third presenter is Mr. Wesley Ayondo, the country manager in Kenya for Cotegna. And the theme he's discussing is the role of CBAs, conformity assessment practices, and the practice of promoting mutual understanding and recognition of each party's conformity assessment procedures in tackling the challenges of variant conformity assessment procedures. Mr. Ayondo comes with a vast experience in the private sector. His expertise covers sectors of technical inspection, protocols. He's done metrology, methodology, testing, and he had some lab practices. He is an engineer, and he has a master's in leadership.
Oh, he's disconnected again, but I think we can give the floor to Mr. Wesley Ayondo so that he can share his presentation and wait for the moderator later on.
Thank you, Nadine. I'm sorry for the moderator. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you may be today. My name is Wesley from Cotegna. I'm just going to share on a topic that is like two-pronged, the role of CABs and also mutual recognition and understanding and how that can be able to affect the trade, etc. in Africa. So I hope that
your voice is not. Maybe you can adjust your audio. Yeah, we are not.
All right. Can you hear me? Am I better now?
A bit better.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm sorry for that. Yes. So I was saying my presentation is going to be a bit two-pronged because we're talking about the role of CABs and also we're talking about mutual understanding and mutual relationship in terms of recognition in Africa. And if you're able to see my slide, please let me know. So yes, so Charles has managed to talk a lot about conformity assessment, and I think I'll not belabor in that point. But perhaps gloss a little bit about the practices, the processes, a bit of the mutual recognitions and understandings that are there, and also coming from an angle of a conformity assessment board rather than a regulator or a standards body for that particular matter. And I hope also in the interest of time, I'll be able to just catch on a few topics. If I miss something, I think feel free towards the end or at the end to bring it up and we can be able to discuss together. Quickly about conformity assessment of the practice itself, being a systematic evaluation of these particular processes that we've spoken about. Whether it's testing, and the testing involves the action of sampling the particular product and taking it to a laboratory that is going to test it or whatever form of testing it's going to take. And the inspection protocol, where you're able to assess the particular product and see whether it's actually fit for a standard, for a process, for a regulation, etc. And that verification of that product meeting that specified or compulsory standard or regulation is the conformity assessment practice in and of itself, ensuring that the product is of quality, is of safety, is of compliance before entering a particular market or any jurisdiction, as it were. And therefore, the importance of this conformity assessment process or practice of this one is, number one, we've spoken about consumer protection a bit, and I won't talk so much about it in terms of how do you protect people in the consumers from substandard or unhealthy or unsafe products. It's through conformity assessment processes or processes. How do you protect your local industry? How do you safeguard local businesses? How do you protect from unfair competition? All those are particular practices that you're able to put together. How do you assure that you're complying with standards that have been put together by a standards body? Imported products or even exported products. Are they meeting the safety or quality standards? Are they giving confidence to the consumer about this particular product? How do you do that? How is public safety guaranteed? Is through these particular processes that we are talking about. And also reinforcing the consumer safety so that people are assured that the particular goods they're talking about are actually safe to be put on the shelves. Some of the best practices of conformity assessment of the processes for that matter basically are just broad, and it depends on whatever jurisdiction you come from. Excuse me. It might go in any particular direction, but basically 5 broad areas cover what is called conformity assessment process. The initial verification, whereby you have requesters coming in, and the documentation that is required, scope of work that is being charted out. What do we need to do? We need to go and sample, do an industrial visit. We need to give whatever requirements are needed for that process to be activated and actuated. The second part is how do you prepare yourself in terms of going to sample, going to do audits to get a type of approval or to do a conformity assessment from a third party angle. How do you verify what capacities and capabilities are needed for that particular job to be done? Then the evaluation part, where it comes, we do the technical analysis, the testing, the conformity assessment, the meat of it as well from the technical perspective, and then goes to the decision-making process, which is the certification element, to issue a certificate or a non-conformity, or a corrective action, or a product recall or withdrawal, whatever the case is, would be, and then surveillance, where there's a continuous assessment of these particular products in the field. So these processes are supposed to help with an outcome of consistency, reliability, credibility, and efficiency. As you do them in a normal, consistent basis, then it gives that particular outcome at the end of it. Now, the roles of CABs like ourselves and many others are there is we play a very important role in just facilitating that assessment practice. And that assessment practice means that we come from an independent point. Charles mentioned about the third-party assessment. That independent evaluation is critical because someone is coming with no lenses on. The lenses are coming from a point of quality and from the point of who are the end users, and would they be satisfied by the job that has been done. The testing, inspection, certification, accreditation, all those assessment processes are concluded in a very impartial, transparent, and a complete way. But at the same time, there are also risks associated with this particular issue of many CABs, for instance, and that is part of the discussion that we have today in terms of you can have inconsistencies and fragmentation. Because you can imagine if you have divergent standards, there can lead to a bit of confusion, inconsistencies, inefficiencies, even in making decisions, and therefore even products or business people will not know how to handle goods living maybe from one region to another. Quality concerns, reliability concerns, compliance burden in terms of cost. We've talked about SMEs in Africa especially, where there's this burden of cost where I'm supposed to comply to this particular standard and this particular standard, and I'm sending it to this particular region. I have to comply to another particular standard, which is different, or it could be for the same product but different parameters. And of course, market access barriers, which we'll talk about a little bit more. When you talk about the challenges that can be posed by variant conformity assessment procedures in Africa, this is very critical because you can imagine if you have a complex landscape of regulations, whereby there are standards that are being adopted for this region vis-a-vis that region. And in many African countries and the RECs, you find that this region talks about this product must comply to this particular standard. And then that standard has got different elements and then you use the same product in this particular region, and there's a different regulatory issue that has been put across. So that complex landscape brings a problem when you have these variant conformity assessment procedures. And the inconsistencies of the standards are not harmonized. So you don't know what you're supposed to comply to, what standard you're supposed to use, for instance. Also brings a bit issues of time delays, because now with business and you're supposed to perhaps send something across another region in Africa, for instance, then the delays become a problem because maybe it is time bound, it's a product that has a shelf life. So how do you handle that going forward? A bit of bureaucracies and technical barriers to trade. We talked about the WTO TBT agreement, which is an MRA in and of itself. But again,
2 more minutes.
TBTs can also be able to bring issues in terms of challenges for variants and harmonization efforts. Thank you. Importance of the MRAs, we have a few MRAs that are available, EAS, AFRA, we talked about some of them. The benefits that are there in terms of enhancing market access, cost of reduction, we've spoken about that. And just a mention of some of the conformity assessment programs that we handle as Conformity in Africa, helping jurisdictions to be able to comply to requirements, import requirements, or even requirements. So the other question that was posed by ARSO to us is, how do CBS like us support this? We mentioned just a few of them here in terms of compliance with standards, but also mutual recognition and that participation in that mutual recognition, collaboration, capacity building. We can be able to help with that and continuous improvement, application and compliance going forward. Last but not least, my final slide is about the role of us as protectors coming into the jurisdictions and the governments to be able to help you to be able to master all the conformity assessment processes and plans that you have, from lab infrastructure to quality marks to market surveillance to product verification in terms of what type of product verifications are you talking about. It could be compulsory standards that have been set aside, or could be the general standards that you have, could be factory audits for local and even for global audits in terms of certification, product sampling, labeling, product labeling, etc. And also product registration platform, where you want to actually know which products are we dealing with in our market. Charles mentioned about 90% of SMEs in Zambia. Do you know who they are, what products they're dealing with? You have a database that's going to be able to show how the compliance has been done. And then harmonize that with other governments to be able to say, listen, we have this mutual recognition agreement that we have maybe like Zambia and Kenya or in SADC, and you can put that together in a product registration platform that can be able to help in terms of bringing together products from one region to another and a mutual recognition. So these elements can be used from us as a third party to give compliance of products and services. In general, the harmonization of conformity assessment practices is what is critical in terms of moving products and market access. But also it requires that there's MRAs that are done between the jurisdictions, between regions that can be brought together to help to be able to assist in terms of products being moving from one point to another. And as a CAB, we are willing and able to be of assistance to anyone who requires such kind of services. With those few remarks, thank you, Nadine. I think I've tried to beat the time. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Lee, for giving us this information in this short time. I think all the questions will be sent to you so that you can provide us with a comprehensive response, which we will share with all the participants. I have one question, and thank you for bringing in the issue of mutual recognition arrangements for conformity assessment results. I think my question, one of the two questions I have is, now we have said the role of CBS and ensuring effective conformity assessment services. Now, is there any risk of or a challenge of having many conformity assessment bodies? Is there a problem, or it's a good thing? How can you rate that? Yeah.
Thank you, Nadine. When you have very many CABs, it is a good thing, but also can pose a danger. Why is it a good thing? Because you have several people that you can be able to rely on for maybe expertise, etc. But at the same time, it brings a problem, because if you don't have harmonized standards and mutual recognitions, then having many means that there'll be a problem in terms of interpretation. Interpretations in terms of inconsistencies of assessment, compliance costs, because now if someone is applying a standard to the full, someone else is using essential requirements, for instance, to set a particular product, then the client actually suffers at the end of the day. So that complexity in terms of regulation is something that is critical. So if you have many, it's okay because of the capacity that you're able to get from many people. But at the same time, it's important to have something that is harmonized and streamlined so that people can be able to operate on a particular level. And I can give you an example. If in Africa, we do importation of many cars that come into our continent from various regions of the world. And so if the requirements that have been given from one regulation to one jurisdiction, for instance, maybe Kenya or Zambia or Zimbabwe or Egypt, for instance, is different from what is given from another country, then if I'm the one who's selling that particular product, like a motor vehicle, then it becomes a problem because there's not that really harmonized and tight way of operation, so that it becomes easy for someone who's doing the trading. And you can extrapolate that to very many products, cosmetics across Africa that we trade in, foods that we trade in. If I require for you to do toxins in the east of Africa, but in the south of Africa is not required, for instance, then that becomes a problem in terms of trading of goods between African countries. So that might be a problem. It's a good thing, but also can be a negative thing at the same time, if not handled properly.
Okay, yeah, thank you very much. That is understandable. And now the second is just related to the MRA. Just give us an example, one example and its benefits. One example of MRA and its benefits, practical example.
Okay, I think one of the MRAs will come on the issue of standardization. Of course, we have ARS standards for ARSO. We currently do conformity assessment processes for some countries in Africa. I mentioned that in my slide. And in some of those regions don't have standards for particular products, but they are available with ARS, as ARS standards or ARSO standards. Those ones are easy because you can be able to take that and you can be able to share with a client, a jurisdiction or a country, and say, listen, there are African regional standards that can be used to show compliance of particular products. I think even doubling down, it comes to the East African standards that are available that can be used across the all East African states as a mutual recognition agreement. It has become easy for trade to facilitate within this particular region. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much for that. Thank you. And we will send all the questions that we have received from the chat for your response. Thank you. Okay. And stay connected before we need you maybe before we close. I have been requested to continue moderating. Now I just want to welcome the fourth presenter. I think Dan, are you sharing? Okay, thank you very much. I'm calling upon Dr. Eve Gadzikwa, the current Chief Executive Officer of SADCAS. Let me introduce to you Dr. Eve Gadzikwa. She was appointed as the SADCAS CEO and the Executive Board member on 1st August 2022. She's dedicated to enhance quality, trust, and competency of conformity assessment bodies in 14 SADC member states, serviced by SADCAS through accreditation of testing laboratories, medical laboratories, calibration, inspection, and certification bodies. Dr. Eve brings a wealth of experience and expertise in various technical areas such as standards, quality infrastructure, accreditation, and proficiency testing. As a member of medical laboratory scientists, Dr. Eve's extensive technical professional career has been within the public and private sector. Prior to joining SADCAS, she spent 14 years tenure at the helm of Standard Association of Zimbabwe, where she worked as Director General of the National Standard Bodies. So in terms of leadership, she was privileged to serve as the first female president of ARSO from 2016 to 2019. And she was elected to serve as on ARSO Council from 2019 to 2020. Currently, she's serving members on the AFRA Council, SADCA Council, and SADCA MRA Committee as Vice President. Thank you very much, Dr. Eve. And I welcome you to take the floor and give us your presentation. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon to you, Nadine. And also good afternoon to all the delegates who are on this platform. It's gratifying to note that at 208, which is quite a large number, I will share my presentation, and I hope we can have a discussion after that. Let me just try and share. Are you able to see that?
Not yet. It hasn't come through yet. Okay, now it is coming.
Okay. Okay, I'll take it through the slide. All right. As I start the presentation, I just wanted to underscore it by just saying a few remarks. I don't know whether I'll have enough time. How much time do I have?
You have 5 minutes. Actually, is it possible to put in a presentation mode?
Okay,
Yeah.
I'm trying to do that now.
Yeah.
Okay, here we go. Is that better?
Yes, it's okay.
Okay,
Now.
excellent. I've been asked to speak about the same topic, trends in conformity assessment. I'll just talk through my slides, and these will be shared later on. But just to say thank you very much for the invitation, ARSO, to be a panelist today at the 44th ARSO monthly webinar. Just so that we all have a common understanding about accreditation. We've been talking about accreditation, but what is it? Accreditation is the independent third-party evaluation of a conformity assessment body against recognized standards, conveying formal demonstration of its impartiality and competence to carry out testing, medical testing, inspection, and calibration. I think this is very important for me to actually give that definition because policymakers, conformity assessment bodies, regulators, traders, they are all interested to know why it's so important. So very, very briefly, I do have an overview of what I'm going to talk about today. I'll talk a little bit about SATCAS, and then I'll go on to talk about mutual recognition. So in terms of this organization, my apologies, organization called SATCAS. SATCAS is actually a multi-economy accreditation body that was formed under the context of the SADC Technical Barriers to Trade TBT Annex, and it is there to really support the vision of our SADC Council of Ministers, having recognized the fact that there's need to form a subsidiarity organization that will take care of accreditation in the entire region. So in terms of the corporate profile of SATCAS, it is an accreditation body, it's a multi-economy accreditation body that services the needs of 14 member states in SADC, Angola, Botswana, Comoros, the Democratic Republic of Congo, Eswatini, Lesotho, Madagascar, Malawi, Mozambique, Namibia, Seychelles, Tanzania, Zambia, and Zimbabwe. So it's all the SADC states, with the exception of South Africa and Mauritius, both of which have their own national accreditation body. And so what was the vision here? The vision was by assuring technical competence through accreditation, SATCAS plays a key role towards achievement of SADC goals. And what are those goals? Industrial development, infrastructural development, trade facilitation, and protection of health and safety of the environment. So, distinguished delegates, this is the picture. 15 years down the road, SATCAS has been in existence for 15 years and has been working very, very hard to support the member states to try and get, at the level of accreditation. And so far, I think you can see we have done exceptionally well with 349 a number of certificates and 300 accreditations so far. In terms of the applications which we are still processing, we do have a number. They keep coming in every day. You can see the picture there. Tanzania is leading the pack. More and more accreditations are coming in. We also have quite a number coming in from countries like Zambia, Mozambique, Namibia, Botswana, etc. And just to share with you quickly, Botswana has 44 today accreditations. Tanzania has reached the 100 mark. In fact, they've surpassed the 100 mark. Zambia 33, Zimbabwe 61, Namibia 42. This is just to name but a few of the countries that are really leading in terms of accreditation. So it's a very good, promising picture. And then in terms of memberships, SADCAS is a full member of the International Laboratory Accreditation Corporation. SADCAS is a signatory member of the International Accreditation Forum, IAF. SADCAS is an arrangement member of the African Accreditation Corporation, AFRAC. SADCAS is an arrangement member of SADC Corporation in accreditation. So you can see that our membership cuts across regionally and internationally, and this will become important in my next slides in terms of why this is critical. What services we offer? Of course, we offer accreditation mainly to those schemes that you can see there, which is calibration, testing, medical, management system certification, product certification, personnel certification, and inspection body certification accreditation. And also training is one of our key activities as well. This is the spread, if you just want to appreciate where most of our business is coming from. Classes that are calibration, testing, medical is MLAS. Medical, as you can see, is the huge chunk, the green one there. Testing, 36% is, the testing. We also have CBAS, which is the Certification for Management System. Plus, we've got the veterinary labs and legal metrology. So those small schemes are still coming up. So most of it is coming from medical and testing, which is our conformity assessment areas. So coming to this important topic of mutual recognition and conformity assessment results, I think it has been already alluded to by previous speakers and who have made my life a lot easier in terms of explaining what it is. I did say that SADCAS is, it has all these memberships, meaning that it has signatory status in terms of the ILAC international mutual multilateral recognition arrangements. So what does it do? It provides significant technical underpinning to calibration, testing, medical, and inspection results. It also provides for proficiency testing and reference materials. As a signatory of ILAC, our accreditations are recognized under this arrangement internationally. And how does it work? Basically, it works, ILAC delegates authority to recognized regional cooperating bodies for evaluation, surveillance, re-evaluation, and associated decision-making related to signatory status of the accreditation bodies that are ILAC full members of the MRA.
1 minute, we have 1 minute left.
Okay, so basically what we are saying is ILAC does not need to go to every member state in SADC or even in Africa. It delegates this authority to these bodies here on the next slide. So if you look at this slide here, it shows you that in Africa, we've got AFRAC, which is recognized. There are 6 regional cooperating bodies which are recognized under the ILAC arrangement. And of course, SADCAS is a member of AFRAC. And then we have SADCA, which is the Southern African Development Community, cooperating structure. These 2 are recognized. So when assessments are done, they are actually delegated through these bodies. So the people who come do the assessments they come and evaluate SATCAS. We are assessed on a regular basis, through peer evaluation. So what are the benefits? I think these have already been spoken to. Quite a lot has been said. Basically, we are saying to governments, regulators, manufacturers, exporters, traders, and SMEs, when an organization is accredited, you can trust it, okay? In terms of the value of goods that are traded locally and destined for the foreign market, you can be assured if your organization or the product is actually, it's gone through the accreditation process. The issue of poor products has already been spoken about, and the perceptions that have been spoken about. It's all about trust. It's all about bringing back the trust. And I wanted to also highlight the fact that SATCAS, in terms of our accreditations, the accreditations are risk-based. We take a risk-based approach. We do not have to go on site for every single facility. We do not have to do that. It's based on risk-based approach. So the results from accredited facilities, be it labs, inspection bodies, certification bodies, do not need to be retested, thus saving on business owners time and money and increasing competitiveness at a global level. So in a nutshell, what are we saying? We are saying that we have recognized the problems which you've highlighted. I took note of limited acceptance of product certifications by national standards bodies. That's a key problem. This can be solved if these organizations are actually accredited. I've also taken note of the perception that the cost of accreditation is high, and I was asked to elucidate on the structure of the costs. Basically, what we are saying is when we are accrediting, I can confirm that 60% of the cost is just travel. It's just travel of our assessors going around the region to actually accredit. Only 40% of the cost is attributable to the actual cost of accreditation. So I think it's a wrong perception to say that accreditation is expensive. It's actually the build-up. The other cost that goes towards accreditation is international recognition, something which no one wants to talk about. But the fact of the matter is, for an organization to be internationally recognized, it costs quite a significant investment and time. SATCAS, I think it took over 5 years to get international recognition. And of course, as I mentioned, the issue of assessors. So basically, the ILAC MRA enhances the acceptance of products across national borders. That is the key benefit, and promotes trade by removing the need for additional testing. And I'm sure we all agree that for us to be competitive and for us to achieve our accredited once accepted everywhere, we need to embrace the mutual recognition agreements. That is the way forward. That will also assist us and our products to be accepted in the region. Thank you very much. I hope I've stuck to time.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Actually, your title, your text in red has responded to one of the two questions I had on how conformity assessment and accreditation can be a trade barrier and also a facilitator to trade. So some of this has been some of this text is responding to the question, but you will just talk for 10 seconds on any additional response. The second question is now on you have talked about the REC, what is there in the region, but now how does this contribute to the implementation of the African Continental Free Trade Area, AFCFTA? Thank you. Just in 1 minute, because you have another presenter. Thank you.
No, that's okay. In fact, at SATCAS, we are very mindful and aware of the developments that are going on under the AFCFTA. As I mentioned, we are part of AFRAC, so we have been mandated as a regional body that's covering 14 countries to ensure that we support the priority sectors. We've got priority products, which, obviously we need to facilitate trade for those products. So we have actually identified which products those are, and we're working very closely with the SADC Secretariat to ensure that our accreditation actually speaks to the priority sectors and we facilitate trade. So we are very much aligned to the developments that are taking place both in SADC and also on the continent as well.
Thank you very much for highlighting that. And thanks again. Please stay online. Before we close, we just give you a second for a takeaway message. Let us welcome the last presenter. Dear participant, please stay online so that we can welcome our last presenter, who is done. Kindly share the screen. Okay, maybe let me share the screen. Okay, yes. Thanks. We are now welcoming Mr. Moses Ngosa, who is the current Principal Technical Regulation Officer at the Compliance Department of Technical Regulations at the Ministry of Commerce, Trade and Industry in Zambia. Mr. Moses Ngosa is currently, at the Ministry of Commerce, and the department has the mandate, his department has the mandate of coordinating the development and implementation of technical regulatory principles, standard testing, and certification procedures in order to enhance trade. The department has also been assigned the role of coordinating the implementation of business reforms. He has, Mr. Ngosa has served as the chairperson of SADC Technical Regulation Liaison Committee, mandated to promote harmonization of technical regulations as per SADC TBT Annex, aimed at promoting regional integration. He holds a Master's of Philosophy in Industrial Policy from University of Johannesburg, and a Bachelor of Science in Production Management from Copperbelt University. Thank you very much, Mr. Ngosa. Can you take the floor and give us your presentation in 5 minutes? Thank you very much.
Thank you, moderator. It's always when you're speaking last when other people have spoken, and I've covered some areas where it makes it easier. So let me just share my screen. Thank you very much. My presentation is on the law of government regulation, laboratory accreditation, presented to this webinar. Are you able to see?
Yes, we are able to see the cover page of your presentation.
Okay, thank you.
Are you able to move the presentation?
I'm unable to move. I don't know why.
You can use the arrows. Okay, it is moving.
Okay, thank you. So, from the law of government in terms of regulation and laboratory accreditation, government is often obliged to protect citizens from possible uncertain events associated with the use of products and services that may threaten health and safety and the environment. And this is usually achieved by means of developing and enforcing technical regulations. In Zambia, the National Technical Regulation Act number 5 of 2017 provide guidance on how technical regulations are developed, applied, and enforced. So in the enforcement of regulatory measures, costly and affects trade and markets for products and the economy and the environment. In this regard, the Act encourages that line ministries and regulatory agencies adopt risk assessment and regulatory impact assessment procedures when considering new and amended technical regulatory measures or their withdrawal. So, in terms of the law of government regulation, it's there to regulate and control products that may be disastrous to the health and safety of the population, fauna and flora, and the environment. And this is done through the promulgation of technical regulations. And in developing technical regulation, the transparency provision of the WTO must be honored. And it's good practice also to base technical regulation on standards. Hence, the state may request national standards bodies to develop national standards that will be referenced in technical regulations. So, as a ministry, we are working on a draft framework, which is a national technical coordination framework, which will provide policy guidance on how technical regulations are developed and applied, so that there is that convergence. So in developing technical regulations, the following shall be taken into consideration, which is one, the technical requirements, and this should be based on international standards. Conformity assessment, which have been elaborated by the previous speakers. This could be a combination of inspection, testing, certification, either supplier declaration of conformity or independent third parties. Then the consideration should be also to the regulatory authority. The regulatory authority is primarily responsible for in-market surveillance, which may include manufacturers' premises or pre-market approvals. And then also the issue of sanctions in terms of when there is non-compliant products. So this is how the framework is being proposed in terms of how to give guidance. Coming to laboratory accreditation, which has been elaborated by the previous speaker and well defined. Zambia, has already explained by the previous speaker, is part of SATCAS, but we further suffice to mention that we are also in the process of establishing our own accreditation body according to our national quality policy. In terms of conformity assessment currently in the country, as earlier mentioned too, we have our Bureau of Standards, which is providing testing and product certification and management system certification. All these conformity assessment areas are all accredited. Then the inspection under Zambia Compulsory Standards Agency is also accredited. Then the calibration laboratory under Zambia Metrology Agency are all accredited. In terms of the update of cabs which are accredited in Zambia, as already alluded to earlier by the previous speaker, we now standing currently at 33 cabs which are accredited in Zambia. And our plan, as we establish our own, we need to focus mainly on 3 schemes, which is the testing 17025, medical 15189, and the inspection 17020. So from national experience side is that previously regulatory agencies were not applying RIA in developing their technical regulations, and now it's a requirement under the Technical Regulation Act and the PRA Act that before any regulation is promulgated, a risk and impact assessment is undertaken to justify the need for the technical regulations. Then also regulatory agencies are putting in their regulations as a requirement for all cabs being used to check compliance to be accredited either to 17025 for testing labs and 15189 for the medical labs. This has worked well, especially under Ministry of Health, where a requirement is that all medical facility offering diagnostic services must be accredited. Then the other national experience is that the transparency provision on the WTO agreement in terms of notifying on new regulations should also be enhanced. Then we are having also a consultative forum, the TBT committee, and also the training of regulatory agencies on the use of the EPIN platform in terms of picking up regulatory or regulations which are being promulgated or where we need to have specific trade concerns. We are facing challenges for like Zambian companies exporting to other countries which are implementing the pre-verification of conformity schemes, which now at SADC level, they have developed a guideline which member states are expected to consider when they are starting shipment inspection programs. The benefits of accreditation, I wouldn't window so much, but from the regulatory point of view, it supports the regulatory efforts in terms of making sure that health and safety, environmental protection, and also fraud prevention are avoided, because accreditation also serves as a risk management too. Then accreditation also in terms of benefits goes beyond by facilitating trade and improvement of the quality and health and it also gives the cabs owners confidence that the systems are operating within the expected competences. So this was well elaborated by the previous speaker in terms of accreditation benefits. In conclusion, I would say technical regulation is complex, and it has become one of the major issues hindering the movement of goods across borders and within countries. And as technical regulation are developed and implemented by many authorities, coordination becomes a key issue, and therefore among each other and between themselves. Therefore, quality infrastructure